morning, everybody. My name is Darren St. George. I am with you today. We are talking about the Dick Van Dyke Show with Sal St. George on our annual Monday morning coffee and comedy talk. So we have more people coming in. I'll just allow them to admit. All right. I hope everybody's starting off their week well, and let's get right into it. Today we have Sal. Come on in, join the party.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, I can't believe how many familiar faces, how many familiar names I see out there. Thank you for all tuning in with us.
Speaking of which, hi, Jacqueline.
Yeah, look at here. Also, I want to make a special shout out to our friends over in Seaford. Thank you, Kristen, for gathering some of your patrons from your library. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. We're really excited to have everybody with us today. How are we doing, Darren?
We're doing well. We are doing well. This is, we're looking at like 60-something people right now, and more coming every moment. So this is fantastic. And I said this earlier as I was admitting everybody into the room. Dick Van Dyke is one of my favorite programs.
Oh yeah, and the turnout reflects that.
Yeah.
So let's get into our news of the day. There was something I wanted to mention to everybody, and I mentioned it on another podcast. I don't know if you knew about it. But about a year and a half ago, we had a difficulty in our family. We had a major fire in our home. And fortunately, Mary and I were safe. We were able to get out of the house, but everything was lost within the home. Everything was destroyed. And one of the things, I think my most significant things that I lost were my books. I'm a huge reader. I've been collecting books my entire life, and Darren can attest to this. I had somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 books just in our home. Every room you went into, there were books. So, strange thing happened to me, and this was not too long after the fire. I was still able to go out and do programs, as we're all accustomed to. And after the lecture, this lovely couple came up to me, and that's the reason I'm doing this. I really want to find out their names, and if they're watching, I really am hoping they'll contact us. But what they did was they came up to me. They had no idea that I had lost everything in the fire, and they said, we were just going through our home, and we had some extra books. We saw this one, and we thought maybe you would be interested in it. And this is what they handed me. It's James Cagney's Autobiography, Cagney on Cagney. It's a very rare book. It's one of my favorite books. They had no idea what they were doing when they gave me this book. It really made me feel good. And it also inspired me to start recollecting my books. I know I've got a long way to go. And right now, Amazon is my favorite friend in terms of collecting some of them. But some of them are so old. I was just telling Mary, my wife, one of the books that we used in the Red Skelton show is now going for like $200. So some of those books are not going to be gotten, not in the near future anyway. But anyway, if the folks that gave me this book, if you're out there, please get in touch. And I would love to thank you personally. All right, that's my note for today.
Fantastic. Here, let me do two things. If anybody does know about who gave the book, I'll put Sal's email address in the chat right now. And I'll also give a link if you're interested in the book itself, Cagney by Cagney. I'll put a link to that so you can order that on Amazon and read along with Sal. Hello from Sunrise, Florida. Very nice. Also, if anybody has any, sorry, I'm still going. If anybody has any questions, please put it in the chat below. Let me know what you want to hear about, any questions or news that you may have about Dick Van Dyke.
And one last thing, I was going to bring this up, but then you just mentioned about Florida. Just type in the chat box, where are you right now? I don't care where you are. I just would love to know where we're reaching at this point, because we keep adding more and more people onto our program. So I'd like to know where you are right now.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Florida, wow, I'm jealous right now. We have Boca Raton, oh my goodness, Long Island, Bohemia, Massapequa, Huntington, Roslyn, another Florida, Spring Hill, Melville, West. This is huge. Look at this. Staten Island. Never heard of it, I know. East Meadow, Oakdale, Melville, Plainville, Seaford.
Boy, they typed fast.
I know, Florida, a lot of Florida. Woodbury, Long Island, East Meadow, Glen Head. Yeah, look at these great towns.
Okay, we should get started with our lecture while we have everybody here.
I think so. Nina says I sound like the LIRR. Have your tickets ready.
Okay. All right, we're talking about one of the most popular shows on TV, the man who made Ottomans famous, Mr. Dick Van Dyke. And by the way, just a little tidbit for you. That famous opening came in during the second season. The first season, they had a more traditional opening, and it was very different. It was just 8x10 shots of all the leads. But in the second season, Karl Ryder came up with this idea using the physical abilities of Dick Van Dyke to do that. As they continued on, they felt, everybody knows I'm going to trip. So they did two different versions of it. In one, he fell over it, and the other one, he did a little sidestep and avoided it. And they would alternate with those. Nobody, when you were watching, you didn't know was he going to trip or was he going to sidestep it. So they were pretty clever, and they knew their audience. Let's go right to the first slide, Darren, and let everybody see what we're talking about. There we go. The Dick Van Dyke Show, it was on from 1961 to 1966, and they won 15 Emmy Awards. They won awards for Best Actor, Best Writing, Best Comedy Series. Mary Tyler Moore won, Dick Van Dyke won, Karl Ryder won multiple. It was a very, very popular show. It did really, really well. If we can go to the next slide, Darren.
Yeah, we just got a note from one of the viewers. Robert says that there used to be bets whether or not he would fall or sidestep.
Yeah. I guess Robert has made some money on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Here they are. What a terrific team they had there. We can go to the next one, Darren. Where did this all come from? And let's get right into it. Karl Ryder was part of your show of shows. In the upper left, there he is in one of the best routines they ever had, where they did the parody of This Is Your Life. There he is underneath there with his buddy Sid Caesar. So when the show ended, everybody was bombarded with opportunities to move in new directions, and he was offered the opportunity to do his own TV show. I'm talking about Karl Ryder now. And Karl was sitting home trying to come up with a premise. There were so many sitcoms on, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see Karl with his wife, Estelle. She may look familiar to you because she's famous for uttering one line out of a famous movie. There she is on the bottom. I'll have what she's having from When Harry Met Sally. That's Estelle. Also the mother of the director of that movie, Rob Reiner. We can go to the next frame, Darren.
Before we do, because I think it's him. Before we move on to the next one, we're getting fancy here, folks. So I've learned how to do some polling. So I'd like to see here, before we move on, if anybody knows the name of that show that Sal is talking about. So let's.
Yeah, Karl Ryder decided to do his own show from the advice of Estelle, and she came up with the premise of the show. Anybody know what the name of that show was?
Here we go. You can answer. You should see on your screen. You should be able to answer that question. What was the original title of the Dick Van Dyke Show? Head of the Family, All in the Timing, A Funny Family, or Father Knows It Pays to Be Ignorant?
So if you know what the original title of the original Karl Ryder version of this show is, just click on it and we'll see which one, who comes in correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue. Oh, we can't go on.
Yeah, here, we have it here almost. We have everybody, they're still clicking in. And right now, I'll tell you the results. It looks like All in the Timing has about 27%. A Funny Family is at 6%. Head of the Family is at 60%. And Father Knows It Pays to Be Ignorant at 5% of the votes so far. But it does look like we already have a majority, and it's for Head of the Family.
Okay, next slide. There it is. So Karl decided to do his own show. He was playing Rob Petrie, and he had a terrific cast on the show. And Alan Brady wasn't called Alan Brady. His name was Alan Sturdy. And they changed the name when they went to the Dick Van Dyke Show because it sounded like Alan's Dirty, but it was Alan Sturdy. On the show, Alan Brady was always, people thought it was Sid Caesar that Karl was referencing, and he actually said that it wasn't Karl Ryder. It was a combination of Milton Berle and Jackie Gleason that he was basing Alan Brady on. Laura Petrie was originally played by Barbara Britton, and Sylvia Miles and Morty Gunty were Sally and Buddy. Morty Gunty was a famous comic. Sylvia Miles went on, and Jack Wakefield played the part of Alan. What was interesting is the show, nobody would pick it up. Nobody liked it. And the funny part was a friend of Karl Ryder's called him up, and you'll see him on the bottom right of your screen, and that is Sheldon Leonard, who was in partnership with Danny Thomas at the time. And he looked at Karl, he says, the show is good. You know what the problem is? You stink. He said, we got to get somebody that can play your part. And that's what they started looking for. And he took him to Broadway. You can go to the next slide, Darren. And he took him to Broadway to see a Broadway show. Next one, please. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. That's right.
And there was the future Rob Petrie on Broadway. It was a very young Dick Van Dyke. There he is dancing with Cheetah Rivera in Bye Bye Birdie. And they knew right away he was the right man. By the way, Dick did not want the name of the show to be the Dick Van Dyke Show. He didn't feel he was known enough. Nobody knows who Dick Van Dyke is, he kept saying. But they kept it that way because that was their premise, Danny Thomas and Sheldon Leonard. It was the Danny Thomas Show, although it started out as Make Room for Daddy. It evolved into the Danny Thomas Show, the Andy Griffith Show, the Dick Van Dyke Show. They kept taking the name of the star on the show. Can we go to the next one?
Yep.
So what happens? Here's our Long Island connection. When they finally were able to get the CBS to understand they were doing a brand new show and they were getting a brand new cast and they had a brand new leading man and Karl would just be writing and directing, Karl went to his home right here on Long Island. He went to Fire Island. He stayed there for a couple of months, and he wrote the first 13 episodes of the Dick Van Dyke Show. Now, for any of you out there that are not writers, that is an enormous output of material for him to be sitting there. By the way, his next door neighbor was somebody you might know. His next door neighbor was Mel Brooks, who had a house on Fire Island. And while Karl was busy writing the Dick Van Dyke Show, Mel was writing some little movie he was thinking about called The Producers. So they were both very creatively, they had just left their shows. Now they're looking to do more creative work. Fire Island turned out to be the refuge that they found to be the best place for them to do that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So they have the show going on, and now they have to get a cast together. Rosemary was a friend of Karl Ryder's. He knew right away he wanted her to be on the show. She was playing the part of like a Selma Diamond. I don't know if any of you remember the name of Selma Diamond, but she was in My Favorite Year, and she played the seamstress in that movie. She had a very strange voice. Anyway, she was the first one to be hired. When they were looking for Buddy, Buddy was supposed to be playing the part of Mel Brooks. That's exactly how they envisioned him, as a young Mel Brooks. And Anne-Marie said, why don't we get Maury Amsterdam? She was friends with him. He was known as the human joke machine. And that's how it all began. As a matter of fact, you can see Richard Deacon and Maury Amsterdam on the upper right-hand corner. And Richard had an illustrious career. He was doing terrific in movies. He made Abbott and Costello movies and other TV shows, Leave It to Beaver, I believe it was. but he was very, very adept at working at comedy. One day, he came in to do a read-through, and Moria was sitting on a chair next, and he said, hey, Baldy, come over here and sit down. And that was how he referenced Richard Deacon. Karl Ryder picked up on that, and he said, we might be able to use that. And that's how the insults from Buddy to Mel Cooley originated. He was always just playing around with it, but they made it a part of the show, which was pretty cool. Next slide, please. Okay, so they had everybody in line, except they couldn't find a wife for Dick Van Dyke. And there was this young actress that auditioned years earlier to play on the Danny Thomas show. He was looking for somebody to play his eldest daughter. At this point, she was 18 years old. On the upper left-hand corner, there was a series of commercials that she made for Hot Point appliances. She was like a little pixie that would bounce on top of all these appliances. She did that for a number of years until she got pregnant. She was married at this point. That's a whole different lecture. She ended up divorcing him.
She was married at 18?
Yeah, she was very young. On the upper right-hand corner, well, in the middle, you might recognize David Jansen. He was in The Fugitive for many years, but prior to that, he was Richard Diamond, private detective. She was on that show, but you never saw her. You always saw her legs, her feet. You heard her sexy voice, but you never saw who she was on that series. On the bottom, she was doing quite a bit of modeling. And as she was modeling, these are some of the album covers that she appeared on. So she auditions. Am I going too fast for you folks? I feel like I'm on hyperventilating.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. And we have, people are commenting in, still telling us where they're coming from. We have somebody coming in from Maine, and we even have people sending in questions and notes from Facebook. So keep that up, everyone.
Okay. As she's auditioning, for the Danny Thomas show, he rejects her. And he says to her, nobody's going to believe anybody with that cute little nose of yours is going to be my daughter. So they end up passing on her. So here we are a number of years later, and they're trying to cast Laura Petrie. And Danny Thomas says, there was a young actress that came in. I almost hired her for my show, but I think she might be the person we're looking for. Now she's in her, I think she's at 24, 25 at this point, or 24. He said, I can't remember her name. He said, I know she auditioned. I can see her face. I can't remember her name, except she had 3 names. That I remember. So he sends his secretaries into their files. They start going through every headshot until they can find actresses with 3 names. They find Mary Tyler Moore's headshot. They give it to Karl Ryder and Sheldon Leonard. They bring her in for an audition. Sheldon auditions her. He doesn't even say you got it or anything. He just takes her by the hand, takes her down the hall. There's Danny Thomas. He says, we found our Laura Petrie, and now she's on the show. Just so you know, Laura, Mary Tyler Moore, at this point, had no experience in comedy at all. None at all. All of the presentation, all the programs she was a model. She was a fantastic dancer and a singer. She did dramatic parts like Richard Diamond, and she appeared on quite a few dramatic series of that time period. 77 Sunset Strip and others come to mind, but she never did straight comedy. And it took a while. It took a while for her to get Karl to understand how funny she could be. And he wrote an episode where she had to, she got jealous of Dick Van Dyke, of Rob, because he came home talking about this wonderful blonde actress that was the guest star on the Alan Brady show. And she was gorgeous, and she had this beautiful hair, and she was funny, and she did this and that. And she becomes jealous, and she's with Millie, her neighbor, and she says, If he wants a blonde, I'm going to give him a blonde. And she goes into the bathroom with Millie, and they dye her hair blonde. She comes out, looks gorgeous. She gets a phone call from Rob, and she says, "How's your day going?" And he says, "You're not going to believe this actress. She's giving us so much trouble. I can't believe nobody's getting along. If I see another blonde in my life, I'll shoot myself." She hangs up and she says, "I got to get rid of this." They go into the bathroom again. They start redoing her hair. Rob comes home. She comes out, and half of her head is blonde and the other half is brunette. And that's the beginning of her comedy abilities on the show. Terrific. And she learned how to cry funny, which is not easy. And she also learned how many different ways there was to say, "Oh, Rob. Oh, Rob. Oh, Rob." And she had all these different versions of it, and she used them appropriately. Okay, enough about Mary Tyler Moore. Let's move on. Yes, question.
Here, we have two things for Mary Tyler Moore before we move on. Judy wants to know, were those Mary Tyler Moore's legs showing on the cigarette pack? No. She wasn't on the cigarette. No. Okay. And then also Lewis asks, weren't there troubles with Mary Tyler Moore's pants?
Okay, you're jumping ahead of me, but we'll do that. Yeah. CBS, you got to put yourself back into the 60s and think of Leave It to Beaver and Father Knows Best and all the Donna Reed show. The women all went to work to do their housework, and they were in these beautiful gowns, and some of them had pearls. And when it came time for Mary Tyler Moore to play Laura, she said, "That's not how I clean my house." And they said, "What do you do?" And she came out, she said, "I wear my capris. I wear, just a regular shirt. I don't." So they were nervous that it would be too suggestive, it would be too offensive to the viewing audience. They said, "You can do it once a month. We'll see what the reaction is." And eventually it caught on and became one of her trademarks. Good question, though. Thank you. Next one. Okay, next slide.
Going back. Here you go.
Okay, next. Oh, no, this is the important part. The first year of the show, as well written as it was, she didn't, the show wasn't catching on. It just wouldn't catch on. They didn't know what it was. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, Rob is pointing at his watch, and that's exactly what it was. The time period was not giving them a good lead-in. They weren't able to get the audiences that they need. They were about to be canceled. Karl Ryder, Sheldon Leonard went to the sponsor trying to convince them to do one more year, let them have the second year. And the reason that they did so well after that point on is because of the next slide. They show that they were following, believe it or not, was the Beverly Hillbillies. Now, you would never imagine that Beverly Hillbillies would have anything to do with Rob and Laura Petrie, but they were a perfect lead-in. The Beverly Hillbillies were a top 10 show every year that they were on. They carried the Dick Van Dyke Show audience, and from that point on, they never had a problem on the Dick Van Dyke Show. They continued. But you would never think the Beverly Hillbillies helped build their career. Next slide, please.
I want to share that Robert, he just wrote in with an anecdote about Mary Tyler Moore. He saw her singing her autobiography and asked her to, signing her autobiography, and asked her to write, "Oh, Rob," since that's also his name. And she took a photo with him and even gave him a rose, and he gave her a rose. So that's really a great story. Thank you for sharing, Robert.
Okay, next slide. All right, so I'm going to give you the three, in my opinion, the three best episodes of the Dick Van Dyke Show. And here's the first one. Again, a great example of Mary Tyler Moore's comedy abilities. This was written all around her abilities. It's called Coast to Coast Big Mouth, as you can see. She goes on a game show and she inadvertently reveals to the TV viewing audience that Alan Brady is bald. I don't know why that would make a big deal, but yeah. Anyway, so she had his falls. He was a nervous wreck. Here you can see him with all of his wigs that he was using. That scene alone, watch it, watch the episode. He pretty much ad-libbed almost everything in that scene, and Mary Tyler Moore keeps up with him beautifully. He starts talking to all the wigs. He'll say, "Okay, guys, here's the woman that put us all out of business," and he's talking to the wigs. It was a brilliant, brilliant piece of acting on all their parts. Terrific. Number 2.
Just one last thing. This episode, Coast to Coast Big Mouth, is also the episode that's being watched on Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh.
Yep. During that, the children are supposed to be doing their homework. Instead, they're watching Dick Van Dyke. Because as they say, they always watch Dick Van Dyke, and this is the episode. This moment, even him talking to the wigs, is the moment that they show on Mrs. Doubtfire.
It's a classic episode. There's no question about it. And one of the joys I have of being with you all in person, we've shown this episode, and I never cease to be amazed by the fact that whenever we show, whether it's Dick Van Dyke Show or any other clips, the audience laughs, and it's contagious. It's just wonderful. I said to Darren, this is fun doing this, but there's nothing like being in front of all of you and hearing your laughter. I love hearing the laughter, and I can't wait to get back together again so we can share that moment again. Okay, number 2, Coast to Coast Big Mouth, number 1. Here's the number 2 one. It may look like a walnut, and it's a very unusual episode. The Twilight Zone was very big at the time. They thought they would do something that had a science fiction element to it. Danny Thomas ends up doing a guest spot on it, one of the producers of the show. This scene of Laura with Rob opening up the closet door and thousands of literally thousands of walnuts come flowing out, and she comes riding out on them. It's an iconic scene from the entire series. Interestingly, they were talking about, they had all these walnuts, and the cast, after the scene was done, everybody took walnuts and they were eating them. They just took all the walnuts and they were cracking and eating them, and they said the entire cast was constipated from that point on. So, okay, number 2 is It May Look Like a Walnut, and number 3, which is a groundbreaking episode, That's My Boy. There's a very young Greg Morris before he ended up on Mission Impossible. For those that don't remember, Rob is convinced, they just had the baby, Richie, and he's convinced that they took home the wrong baby. Their name is Petrie's, their name is Peters, and they thought for certain they were mixing them up because Rob was getting things that were meant for them, they were getting things that were meant for them, and they really thought, he believed that they had the wrong child, right to the last 30 seconds of the show, 1 minute of the show, until he opens the door. He knew they were coming over. He tells Laura, go to your room, I'll handle this. He opens the door, and the look on his face is right there. You can see it. The reason it's a groundbreaking episode, think of the year. This is 1962, I think, 63. When the show is aired, the idea of having a black couple on the show, and the censors and CBS were nervous wrecks. They kept saying, "You're making fun of the black couple." And they kept saying, "No, we're making fun of Rob with his insecurities and his thinking everything is wrong. We're really making fun of him. The black couple are the ones that get the last laugh." Well, anyway, when the show was aired, the people absolutely loved it. And it became one of the most popular shows. And even today, you can watch it, and it still holds up after all these years. So you have 3 of my favorite Dick Van Dyke episodes, and now Darren's going to take it from here.
That's right, because I want to know, what is your favorite? I want to know your favorite episode of the 3 that we just presented, if you've seen them. And then also, who is your favorite character from the show? So let's give that a shot. We're opening it up, and you should be able to see the polling now. Cast your vote. Also, as everybody is starting to cast, Dad, I wanted to mention Nina. She wrote in and said that she would really love to hear everybody's responses as you're describing. You know, it's you get that feedback when you're in person. Maybe sometime we could actually try to do this and leave people's mics on, or maybe I'm thinking maybe we can turn the mics off but leave the video on. We could try something like that. This way we can get a little bit more feedback and that interpersonal connection.
Yeah, we can do that. I have no problem with that. I love to hear everybody. We can all sing the Dick Van Dyke Show theme together. I like what Lewis said in the beginning.
That's right. And summon Colin in the process.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. We have favorite characters. We have Rob and Laura are sharing the top two slots at 37% for Rob, 40% for Laura. Everyone else is under 10% for favorite characters. And then which of the 3 episodes is your favorite? Again, a pretty close tie. Coast to Coast Big Mouth has 43%, and
Wow.
That's My Boy has 47%. It May Look Like a Walnut is only 11% of people that are voting for that one. So it looks like Rob and Laura and Coast to Coast Big Mouth and That's My Boy. Those are the favorites. So that's pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. Oh, let's see here. Do you know who the black actress is in the couple?
I had that. I can't remember now, but I can look that up quickly if you want. Yeah.
I can take a look as well.
Okay.
My favorite line of Rob's, she doesn't have it while she's having it. She has it after she had it. Oh, talking about the baby.
Yeah.
All right, great. We can go back.
Okay. So the show is a success. And by the way, right from the beginning, Karl Ryder said, we're only doing 5 years. We're only going to do 5 years and that's it. And everybody agreed with that. And 5 years was the number. And that's exactly what they did. By the way, that's exactly, it's the same production company, Danny Thomas, Sheldon Leonard, also did the Andy Griffith Show. And when they signed everybody on to do the Andy Griffith Show, they went on with the same thing. Andy said to Don Knotts, he said, we're only doing 5 years, just so you know. And they said 5 years. And so when the 5th year came, Don Knotts started getting offers to do movies. And he said, okay, I'll sign the contract, which he did. He signed the contract to do the movies. By the end of the season, the show is still in its top 10 run. And he says, you know what? I think we're going to keep the show running. But by then, it was too late for Don Knotts. That's why he kept coming in and doing a guest spot. And every time he came on, almost every time, he would win an Emmy Award. He was always winning Emmy Awards for doing that Barney Fife. Okay, so they said 5 years. The show ends. Everybody goes off into their own direction. Let's look at Mary Tyler Moore, what happens with her.
Also here I have it. The name of the wife is Mimi Dillard. Mimi.
That's right. That's it, Mimi Dillard.
Yep. And it doesn't seem, I checked her IMDb. It looks like she stayed with TV for the most part.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's continue.
Oops. So Mary Tyler Moore leaves and she starts doing movies. She had a couple of TV specials. She had a series of her own. Nothing really caught on. The movies that she made, if you can get to that slide, Darren.
Yep, you got it. Here we go.
I think it's number 19. Here's some of the movies that she was in. Thoroughly Modern Millie, The Change of Habit with Elvis Presley. She plays a nun. It was his lowest grossing film. And from that movie on, that was the last movie Elvis made. Thoroughly Modern Millie with Julie Andrews and Carol Channing. But the change of pace for her was Ordinary People. Robert Redford went against type, hiring her to play the wife in that show, and she did a phenomenal job in the role. Okay, so she's making these movies, and before Ordinary People, she was having a hard time getting work. And Dick Van Dyke was offered an opportunity to do one of his TV specials, and he called her up and he said, would you like to do a special together? And my wife came up with the perfect title for it, Dick Van Dyke and the Other Woman, because she said they were so affiliated with each other on TV. People really believed that Rob and Laura, Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore were really married. That's how convincing they were. So she said, name the show Dick Van Dyke and the other woman. They did do that, but the secret behind Dick Van Dyke's idea was this. He wanted to help out his old friend, and he built the entire show around her to spotlight her, to show how versatile she is. She could sing, she could dance, she can do comedy. He really highlighted her because people had forgotten her, not him. He was still working and doing things like Aaron Poppins. He was doing terrific, but she was still having a hard time getting her footing. Once that show aired, we can go to the next slide, Darren. Once that show aired, CBS offered her her own program, and the rest is TV history. What a great cast! What great writing! You can't even pinpoint one of them and say this one is better than the other. Can you believe Betty White is still with us? Ed Asner is still with us. Oh yeah, Gavin McLeod is still with us. But what a terrific cast! All because of Dick Van Dyke giving her that opportunity. Next slide. There's Dick Van Dyke. Yep. Those are some of the films that he was known for. He also did some dramatic pieces. He ended up going on doing a show. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. It was called The Morning After in 1974. He played a very dramatic part where he played a drunkard. And then he also played the killer on Columbo, believe it or not. He was trying to change his image and let people see that he wasn't just a comedian, he wasn't just a song and dance man. And the thing with Morning After, it was about an alcoholic gentleman, and he was experiencing his own problems with alcoholism. It was very brave of him to do that movie. Okay, so the show does well, goes on the air. In 2004, we can go to the next slide. They do a reunion. Yeah, we do. Oh, yeah, that's right. He did Diagnosis Murder also for many years. Here they are. They did a Dick Van Dyke show revisited. Those are on the upper right-hand corner. That's Richie as a grown man at that point. And there's the rest of the cast. It drew high ratings, and it was very, very popular. And they still run it every once in a while on TV. So, what does Dick Van Dyke, how did it influence other people? Well, we have a gentleman here on Long Island that came from Long Island by the name of Phil Rosenthal, and he was creating a TV show for his buddy, and he said, I'm basing it on the Dick Van Dyke Show. If we can just clip to the next slide. He created Everybody Loves Raymond. There they are. Look at this. They even have the same poses, all of them together. But Everybody Loves Raymond was based on the same format that Karl Ryder created for his series. What was interesting is he didn't want to put anything in the show. One of the reasons Dick Van Dyke Show holds up is there is nothing political. There is nothing timely about that time period. There was one episode where they did a dance called a twizzle. I think that was it. And that was about as close to doing something that was period reflective as any other show. Most of the other shows you can put in any time period. That one was playing off of the twist, and it's one of my least favorite episodes.
Yeah.
But there they are. Everybody Loves Raymond, owes a debt of gratitude. And Phil Rosenthal says it all the time. That was the show that really influenced him the most. Last slide, Aaron. Yeah. There they are. Why is this show as popular as it is now as it was when it first came out? I think it's more popular now. It's never been off the air. It's always been on. And the characters are all just, how can I put it? They're all charismatic. They're all funny. And they all have their own identity, and the shows, you know, Karl was one of the first people to do this, and this is why Phil Rosenthal really liked this show so much. Karl would come in and ask everybody, did anything funny happen to you this week? And in many cases, the things that we saw them experiencing were things that actually happened in real life to all these characters. Buddy getting his bar mitzvah at an older age, Sally being introduced to a priest as a potential date. There were all these things, the things that happened with Rob and Laura, opening up the box where Rob is saying, don't open up my mail, and she opens up the box and it turns out to be an inflatable life raft. All those things happen in real life to these characters in one way or the other, in some form. Of course, the writers will embellish it a little bit, but it's all based on real life. And Everybody Loves Raymond, the same thing. Situations that happened in real life to those characters. Any questions out there?
Yeah, we have some questions and notes. Nina also pointed out that we have Dick Van Dyke. He's still with us at 94 years old. So. Yeah,
as a matter of fact, he really stole the show in Mary Poppins Revisited. He came in to just film one day. He literally jumped up at 94 on top of their tabletop and did a soft shoe on top of the table. From what I've read, the cast, the crew, everybody gave him a standing ovation and applause when he finished that scene. They didn't expect him to do that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. It's just, he's a treasure.
And the makeup is the same makeup that they used in the original Mary Poppins when he played an older version of himself.
Let's see here. Nina, I love the clip about the musicians and where they vocalize the instruments.
Yes.
Yep.
I am a fine musician. It's one of my favorite parts. When I do my live presentations, I always show that clip.
We should add that one into the your favorite clips on YouTube, your playlist.
Okay.
Yep.
You got it.
Rob and Laura dancing was always great by Robert.
Mm-hmm.
Adler says, oh, the banter between Sally and Buddy always gave him a chuckle.
Yeah. Dick Van Dyke said that the script was so well written that they didn't have to embellish, but Maury Amsterdam always felt he could. He said, we all stuck to the script, but with Maury Amsterdam, he was Mel Brooks. If he had a joke, if he had a new line, he would just throw it in there. By the way, if you watch that old show, if you watch the Dick Van Dyke Show, you'll see some up-and-coming character actors that started out doing that. I'm thinking of Jamie Farr from MASH. He came in with the concession rolling cart to sell things in the morning. But there's a lot of great character actors. J.C. Flip, boy, my name is James C. Philbin.
If you know, put it in the comment. Type it in.
Yeah, they'll correct me.
Yep.
But yeah, there's so many great character actors on that show.
So Deborah says, talking about character actors, Millie was also went on to be the grandma on The Nanny.
On The Nanny, yep.
And Ruth says, oh, what did Maury Amsterdam do after the show ended?
He continued working. He was the two of them. He and Rosemary ended up doing a two-man thing where they toured with it. They did TV specials together, not specials, guest spots on people's shows. They went on there. Karl Ryder recreated Alan Brady on the Mad About You series, for which he won a Emmy Award. Yeah, they all kept the history of Dick Van Dyke Show was kept alive. I think it was TV Land also did an animated version of Alan Brady. Where Karl Ryder did the voice for that as well. So yeah, they all kept working. None of them ever stopped.
Lewis mentioned, talking about That's My Boy, that the Dick Van Dyke returned to the subject matter when Rob and Laura accidentally dyed their hands black.
Yeah.
And went to the dinner and dealing with this type of subject matter.
I just want to mention mention quickly that Jerry Paris, who played the lawyer, the dentist next door, the next door neighbor, Millie's husband, right from the beginning, he was pleading with Karl Ryder. He said, give me a chance, can I direct? Give me a chance, can I direct? And eventually he wore him down. he became one of their #1 directors for it. He also went on to direct shows like Happy Days, Here's Lucy, That Girl, what else? The Joey Bishop show, Laverne and Shirley, Love American Style, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Odd Couple, Happy Days. He did. He started out as an actor. If you watch an old great movie called Marty with Ernest Borgnine, you'll see him in that show as a very young guy. Terrific dramatic part for him. But he was a well-known director for many years after that.
We're going to have to start winding down. Still more things are coming in, though. We have Barry Fields, part of popular Long Island Beagle tribute band, has built and exhibited the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang for Dick Van Dyke. Robert says Mike Adamo has bit parts on the show and was also Dick Van Dyke's assistant in real life.
Yeah.
Did they? Ruth wants to know, did they really like each other, the actors?
Yes. I've not found anything where there was a disagreements or being disagreeable. And they all went through personal traumas during the course of it in different ways, whether it was the alcoholism or divorce or other situations, but they all managed to get through it all. Yeah.
And then moving on into Mary Tyler Moore, Lewis mentions the episode for Chuckles the Clown and just how powerful that episode is.
Yeah. I always felt that the Mary Tyler Moore Show was brilliant writing, but they were emulating 2 other shows. They were realizing what MASH and All in the Family were doing. And they really picked up on that and were able to, I can remember the very first episode I saw of the Mary Tyler Moore Show that made me think of that. It was when Lou Grant comes in and is talking about getting a divorce. And now they were adding a whole new level of drama and comedy into the show. And that was the first episode I remember as a young guy watching it and saying, oh, they're going into the direction that All in the Family is doing, and Mary Tyler, All in the Family and MASH.
Nina is
the whole thing on MASH, by the way.
I want a whole thing on MASH. I want a whole month on MASH, and there's enough episodes to do it.
Yeah.
Nina is curious, how much practice did they have before airtime? And was this in front of a live studio audience?
It was in front of a studio audience. It's always live, and always with. You got to go back to. You got to go back to Lucy and Desi creating the 3-camera shoot. I have to think on this one here because I think there were some episodes that were not done live, but I'm pretty sure that they were done live. I have a big announcement I want to make. And as soon as you say we're moving from this, I want to make that announcement.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we have a wonderful group of people. All of you, thank you so much for tuning in and being part of this. Last week, when we did the George Burns and Gracie Allen tribute, and we had their family on the show, we drew our largest audience ever. We didn't expect that at all. So I want to try to continue that. And if you know anybody that is related or knows somebody that was related to a celebrity, please give them our information because we'd love to talk with them, number one. To enhance our experience, next week, we have a special announcement. We're doing our first virtual road trip. We're all going on the road together, all of us, and we're going to Indiana, and we are paying a visit to the Red Skelton Museum of Comedy. We have the director that's going to be on with us. They're going to give us a personal tour. They're going to show us through the museum. We're going to get to see some of the original props and artifacts. But also, they're putting together a brand new exhibit celebrating the 75th anniversary of World War II. They're putting a whole new exhibit together called I Doed It, and it's based on Red's Army years and what he did during the war years. So next week, it's going to be really exciting. Tell your friends about it. If you know any veterans, I think they would be interested in seeing this program also. We're going to Vincennes, Indiana. We're going to see the Red Skelton Museum of Comedy. Is that exciting? I'm excited about it.
Yeah, Linda just said that she was just watching Red's DVDs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Very nice.
I would like to leave us with one last poll. As you can see, we're doing our best to learn how this new world works, how this technology works, and we want to continue to bring the best shows that we can for you guys. So take a look, and we'd love to get your opinions. We want to know how we can make this show grow and have more programs for you. So we want to know, do you want more special guests like the George Burns family, or like Dad just mentioned, going on the road and taking a personal private tour of the museum? Are you interested in, we're thinking maybe offering another show with Sal. We could do it on Wednesdays, maybe on Friday, but would that be something that you're interested in and getting more content there? Is this something that we can pay for and charge for? Because we're realizing that Zoom charges us for these things. So isn't that fun? And also, most importantly, make sure you answer that last one. Doesn't Darren, myself, don't I look handsome today? I've been working on my hair. I'm trying to look good for you guys. So all of the feedback is appreciated. We're just doing our best to learn and understand how this world works. Oh, and thank you. We have more coming in the comments. Thank you so much, Sal and Darren, for inviting to Seaford Library patrons. Of course, we're happy to have you, our special guests. Rhoda says, wonderful event as always. Thank you, and looking forward to next week. Yes, we are looking forward to it as well. Starting our 3 Redhead series next week with Red Skelton, and then we have Danny Kaye.
Yeah.
And we're closing with Lucille Ball, right?
Yep.
Oh, so look, we're getting results. The more the merrier for special guests. That's great. Are you interested in another talk? You bet. 93%. You bet. They want more stuff. If there was a fee, would we still join? Of course. Of course is almost tied with yes, but keep it $5 a lecture. That's fine too. No, I'm only interested if it's free. That's fine as well. And then we have, doesn't Darren look handsome today? He looks just like Gary Cooper, is at 30%. He's seen better days. Thanks, folks. I have 6%. But then the leader is like father, like son at 65%.
He looks a lot better than I do.
All right, everybody. I think we're going to have to call it there. As usual, we're running long. So we try to keep it at 45 minutes, but that never seems to be the case.
Well, I want to thank everybody. And by the way, I always ended my lectures where I said the same thing, and it applies now more than ever. We have no choice in life. We're all going to grow older. We have no choice. We just don't have to grow up. And Dick Van Dyke is a great example of that at 94 years old, and he's still got a smile. Have a great week. Turn it over to Darren.
Thank you so much, everybody. If you want to see this show, or if you want to learn more about what's going on, you can always visit us at salstgeorge.com, where we have our calendar of lectures. You can also visit us on Facebook if that's where you feel comfortable. Join us over there, and we have all sorts of posts and links. And then the big one that we've been working for is YouTube. This is where we're actually posting all of these lectures, after these chit chats, after they're done. And you can see clips from some of our other live shows when we were able to accomplish those, even some of Sal's work for SeaWorld over here and different events. So go ahead, take a look. But most importantly, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you being with us. Have a wonderful rest of your week. See you next time. Bye.